on Market Street and leaving the ones on Main taller since those sidewalks were bigger. Those ended up getting cut back too. Right now it's just kind of in limbo. We're not sure if the city is taking care of them or if the downtown business group needs to hire somebody to take care of them. I've been coming up on Sundays and Mondays when I'm off, pulling all the suckers off the bottom, but there's a lot of them and I can't get to them all myself. What really needs to happen, I went around and tried to use those industrial black trash bags and line the bottom and mulch on top of them to try and slow some of that. But those metal grates that are around each one really need to be pulled up for it to be done properly and lined with landscape fabric and mulched. And all the trees need to be treated for bugs. I don't know what it is, but there's some of them, something's on the ones on Market Street that's killing them. And so we're trying to take care of them and keep them from dying, but I wondered if the city could help possibly since they're on the sidewalk there, or just try and get some clarity on whether or not y'all were going to take the lead in taking care of them or if we needed to hire somebody to have that done.
Ms. Donner.
Yes.
Jeff Ham.
Hi, Jeff.
Why are they being cut back to begin with if you're calling them a tree?
Well, because they were growing into the awnings and doing damage to the businesses down there. They were not cut, they were being cut every year, and then they skipped to last year, and they just weren't being manicured at all. And so, because of the damage to the awnings, we cut them back.
Okay, well that's part of maintaining the vegetation that you have, that you're asking for beauty within the city, which I think they're great.
Yeah.
And I hate when I see them cut back like that because it's not healthy for the plant. I know other people are gonna call me crazy, but I'm a horticulturist, so I understand what it's all about. And I think if somebody were able to take care of the trimming and the proper care of the Crape Myrtles, I think that they would be very advantageous rather than being cut back to stubs.
Yeah.
Because it's a bad way to start, and it's just as you've said, the suckers that are created are only because the plant is trying to survive, and so it's trying to bring on new growth.
Right.
Whereas if it's kept trimmed from the bottom up and to keep the lower limbs up a little higher and trim the ones away from the awnings, you wouldn't have a problem, I don't believe.
Yeah,
But it does take some work.
And they were getting so tall on the side by Paradise Pets that it was a problem with the power lines as well over there. I think originally when they were planted, they were supposed to have been the miniature versions that went in there rather than the full trees for that reason, and they were just, the wrong type was planted. And so we're just trying to manage them at this point the best we can. So we're not wanting to remove them, we're not wanting to cut them down, we were just trying to manage, not skip a year. They need to be cut back, whether it's somebody that knows what they're doing, we would prefer that every year rather than letting them get so out of control.
Well, I agree with you, and I think it does take somebody that knows what they're doing because there's a method
Right.
to trim a tree.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm doing the best I can, just volunteering out there, trying to get them to look better, but it's just, there's so many of them that it's a lot.
Make a motion, Alderman Ham helps attend to.
I was just getting ready to say that. I give all the advice I can. I'm not gonna do all the work, but I would be glad to give you some advice on what can be done.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Jennifer, could you tell the council members how the master gardeners have been worked in coordination and whether they are or not still associated with keeping up with the plantings downtown?
And they do, the master gardeners have been fantastic. They do a lot of the planting down there, a lot of the flower beds around the park there on the corner. They previously were working with some of the Crape Myrtles. I think they were doing more on the Main Street side to keep those manicured so that as the trees got taller, you could see through the bottom of the trees to still see the businesses. It's just that was being done on Main Street, but not being done on Market Street. And so there was a big difference in the way the trees looked. And so it's just figuring out a plan to keep them all the same. Okay. So I think the aesthetic looks better when all of them are consistent.
So what you're asking is for someone to come and take care of it. I'd say, Brad, can we not contact the master gardeners and see if they can take over the process?
They did not want to take them over because we cut them back. They said that if they got cut at all, that they did not want to have anything else to do with them.
I think we ought to re-ask them.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Yeah, I think that we could approach them again, especially from a city standpoint, if we sort of take the lead on that. And there's also other gardening groups in the city. Ms. Reed, I think you're a part of one, right?
We don't actually garden.
Okay.
We're more into education than gardening.
You can come down and educate the downtown people.
And I don't mind continuing to help, I just know I'm slacking because they look horrible right now, and there's just not enough time for me to personally get to them all.
Yeah, I think that from our office, we can help lead that charge.
Okay, awesome.
How many are we talking about? More than 50?
Probably just under 50, I believe.
And they're just around the downtown area on the,
Down that
in
main
front of
square. They're
those-
planted all down South Street, they're planted all over,
Oh,
but the
yeah.
ones that I've been trying to do are around the main square there, and down in front of the Royal Theater.
Okay.
They go on down, even the ones we didn't cut still had suckers that were this tall. So I know cutting them made the suckers grow more, but all of them had them, whether we cut them or not. It's just a
Good.
routine maintenance kind of thing I think we have to do on them in the spring.
Who actually planted those? Did the city plant those?
Streetscape.
It was a grant, yeah, from years ago that I
They plant them
understood.
because they're hardy and they grow well.
Yeah, and I would just try and encourage however we do it, to try and, not let them get so tall that they block entire businesses. Like, there's one right in the middle of my storefront out front, and you literally couldn't see my store from anywhere. Cause there's this giant Crape Myrtle that was just overgrown. I think they could be good if they were kept trimmed and pruned correctly, but we need to figure out a
It
plan.
would seem reasonable to me that instead of you taking ownership of this entire process, each business owner just take one plant or tree.
There's a lot of division on what the Crape Myrtles should be like downtown. Some don't want them at all, some want them left alone. And to get everybody to agree on that issue is really hard. So I would hate for people to go out there and just start cutting on them themselves,
Yeah.
just because not everybody's on
I
the
could
same
see,
page.
I could see where that would be problematic.
The young lady in the back, you had your hand up.
I did, would you like me to walk up?
Yes, please, and state your name.
Hello. My name is Jana Helton. I'm a building owner of 119 and 115 North Market Street. We are the culprits of the people who are cutting back the Crape Myrtles.
She's not the only culprit.
But we are, I admittedly so, we are one of the culprits of that. And I guess the real question for us as the building owner and business owners is who is responsible for these trees? And do I have a right as the building owner and property owner to not have a tree there if I don't want it? Because it's blocking the view. We use our windows in the front of our buildings for patrons to be able to look out and enjoy everybody that's walking past. And soon that's gonna be a very busy street with a lot of people to see as they walk by, and the trees are blocking that view. And I would prefer it not to be there. Also, eventually, if it were to stay, it would get so large that eventually there's gonna be debris that's gonna be hitting the building that would then be my responsibility. So I would like to have the option, to have trees in front of our buildings or not.
If I'm not mistaken, trees grow out next to the street, and people walk down the sidewalk, or between your tree and your building.
They are, yeah.
Out in the street, I can see it, they block, but if they're walking the sidewalk,
Yeah, but Crape Myrtles, I've got several Crape Myrtles, they do reach out and they spawn out. If you don't trim them, they are robust trees.
They are robust and they are blocking the view of the patrons viewing out the windows that are sitting at the bars looking outside. They're seeing a giant Crape Myrtle. So that's why we've been trimming ours down.
How many trees do you have?
Was that for me?
How many trees are in front of your property?
3.
3. When this project first started, been a number of years ago, the business owners were contacted asked if they would be willing to have these trees put in.
Mhm.
So they were, and then as someone mentioned, up and down South Street, actually, those were put in first. So when they were put in, the result of people's names who wanted to have their name put in and so forth. My problem with it is we start taking out trees here and then taking out trees there, it's gonna look spotty, it's not gonna look good. So, you know, I can understand your plight, I can understand what you're saying, but, I think you need some continuity with this because there are other people who still want the trees. I think they enhance the look of the downtown, and makes it more homey-like almost.
I agree.
And so, I understand the problems with Crape Myrtle, most of us have one, or you've had them for years. But, I'd hate to see, a bunch of trees being cut out. That's my problem.
And I actually agree with the consistency of having a hallmark type moment whenever you're going into the downtown square and using the Crape Myrtles for consistency for that charming, or that charm that you're looking for. But it is a problem whenever we, as the business owners, are trying to have a place where people can sit at windows and look out and they cannot see past the Crape Myrtle. So,
Get a pretty
That
good
was-
shade on that too, don't
excuse me,
you? You get a pretty good shade during the summertime for those trees. don't
we
you?
have awnings for shade.
Well, I know of Roosters, that's Crape Myrtle Hill,
Okay.
and he's got awnings too.
Just walking for a flower bed.
I just wanna know if we have the option, as the building owners and business owners, do we have the option to not have a tree?
If I'm not mistaken, that's in the public right of way, it's in the cities, so the city will get with the master gardeners and, get them to have consistency with what they're doing.
Right.
And we might have to, get some new master gardeners, there's 71 of them.
Right.
So we'll just, get with them and address the issue through them.
Okay.
And that way everyone will be consistent with what they want, get them out of the window where it's a skinny tree and limbs
Right.
up high.
Right.
Because I believe Mr. Mackey down there, damaged his car 2 or 3 times, didn't it, with the stuff falling?
It's damaged a lot of things, and we have a lot of kids outside the ice cream shop that were climbing on them and falling, and it was an injury, you know, they were just so overgrown. And I thought we had come to a pretty good compromise by trimming them back to where they weren't so obtrusive, but now I'm worried that we trimmed them back so far that we've damaged them. So, and there may be some that we end up having to do something different with if we don't address the bugs and treating them soon.
Right, the roaches are a problem.
I'll get Brad to get with Master Gardeners tomorrow.
Okay, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else to come before this committee?